Hi everyone, this is Ofra. In this video playlist, I'm going to provide a list of short videos that will describe how to integrate ServiceNow with GitHub. The first video is about linking Studio apps to Git using SSH. Let's get right through it. So the first step is to create a repo in GitHub. So I'm going to navigate to my GitHub account and I'm going to go to my repositories and create a new repository. I'll call it SNDemo. And I'm going to make it private. Go ahead and create the repository. Now that the repository is created, I will go to my instance and open up Studio to create the application in Studio. So I'm going to create a new application, call it the same name, SNDemo. Go ahead and create it. I'm going to skip the rest of the wizard things. I'm just going to choose classic and skip everything else. I'm going to skip the wizard and verify that the application has been created. Just refresh everything and I see the application has been created. Now we need to create a credential to the repository, and going to GitHub, we see that they recommend using the ED 25519 cryptographic key. The problem is that ServiceNow does not support this cryptographic key. So what we need to do is to use one of the legacy ones. ServiceNow does support the RSA algorithm, but I've done a little bit of research and I found out that the ECDSA algorithm is preferred. So I'm going to show you how to use that algorithm to create the SSH key. You can either generate it online using this URL, but I'll show you how to do it using the command line. So I'm just going to go to my root directory in Windows, and I'm going to navigate to the .ssh, where I can list all the previous keys that I've created for various applications. And then I'm going to use the command line to create the new ECDSA SSH key. And I'm going to use my GitHub non-reply account as the email. And then I'm going to call the key ServiceNow demo, SNDemo, and refresh the directory. And I can see that the key has been created, both the private and the public key. So I'm just going to list the public key because this is the one that we're going to add to GitHub to authenticate our application. So I'm just going to concatenate it and just copy it. Now at GitHub, we need to add the new SSH key. So we're going to settings and then SSH and GPG keys, and then add a new key. I'm going to call it SNDemo and paste the public key that we copied earlier. Now that the key has been added to GitHub, we're able to authenticate it using ServiceNow. So we're going to create a new credential, private key credential. I'm going to call it SNDemo. I'm going to copy the username as the email address that I added to the public key. And then I'm going to list the private portion of the key and add it to the credential record. Notice that I don't add any password or any passphrase because I didn't have them in when I created the key. Now I'm verifying that the record has been created correctly. And then we're going to link the application to the source control. I'm going to select SSH, and then I'm going to copy the URL of the Git repository from the repository, switch to SSH and copy it. And paste it right there. And then I'm going to select the credential record that we've just created, the SNDemo credential record. Now I'm going to go ahead and link to source control. And that's about it. Now in the status bar below, we can see the application is linked to the source repository on the status bar there. And now we can do all the necessary operations that we'll go into in the next session. Now, certain operations are not accessible through the ServiceNow Studio UI, and therefore I recommend that we create a clone of the repository in your local computer. I'll show how to leverage this clone in subsequent sessions, but let's go ahead and do that. So first step is I have a directory called GitHub, and I'm going to go ahead and clone the repository to this directory as a new directory. So when I issue the git clone command, I see that we get an error because Git does not know where the SSH keys are located. So if we add the SSH key location using the config switch, then we're able to clone the repository just fine. Now we see that the directory has been created. It's an empty repository directory. That's it for this session. In the next session, we'll go into more advanced use cases of the ServiceNow and GitHub integration. Thank you.